Take a moment to look back through your life and find a time when you effortlessly achieved an activity or lost yourself in a flow state while playing either a sport, video game, or even while performing. When you look back and think about this moment, maybe you think, wow, I don't even remember how I did that. It just happened. Where you feel like you weren't thinking about anything in that moment. You were just immersed in the activity that you were doing. How did it feel? Was it freeing? Did it provoke an emotion out of you? And how did you feel after? Maybe you felt accomplished or proud of yourself. Maybe you felt more confident. What if you could achieve this state every time you did something that you were passionate about? Although I know it's not always like this though. I've had plenty of performances in my life where I felt insecure, nervous, felt like my hands couldn't move in the way I wanted to, where I've been consumed by an anxious energy that was debilitating me. I think back to when I was in orchestra and played violin, and I did a competition in my senior year, and I was playing this piece that was very difficult for me, and like my hands were just shaking. I couldn't play the piece right, and it was so difficult on an instrument where you have to be so precise like violin. And I've had those same moments on guitar too, where I was playing and my hands just weren't moving as fast as they usually could in practice. These mistakes I've made have haunted me. My nervous energy seeping through my guitar playing as I perform, when in practice I had perfected every note. And I constantly wondered how I can stop this anxiety from affecting my performance. And maybe these same worries have consumed you. It doesn't always have to be like this. There is a tried and true method that has allowed the greatest performers and athletes to achieve an effortless mastery in their craft. I was once a musician full of fears and anxiety that held me back. And now I'm able to embrace these ideas that I'm going to go over in this video. And I have a confidence and stage presence that my younger self would be so proud of. I'm still young, and to be honest, these ideas are still fairly new to me. They were shared to me in a class that I only took last year in my final year at Berklee called Effortless Mastery. But the way my mindset has shifted and changed in only 1 year has been something that I've been searching for as long as I've been a musician. This philosophy is not only applied to musical performance. This idea can be applied to all aspects of your life or any activity where you want to perform in a flow state. And there are tons of books that express this similar idea. The concept of flow was coined by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who wrote the book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, discussing everything about the flow state and how you can use it in your daily life. Eugen Herrigel portrays a similar idea in his book Zen in the Art of Archery, a story of a German philosopher who discovered through the practice of archery how to detach from the ego. These ideas I will be discussing today come from the idea of a great jazz pianist, Werner, who wrote the book Effortless Mastery and was my professor for the class as well. He has a great YouTube channel, which I will link in the description if you'd like to hear his wisdom and knowledge. I will be sharing my experience through how it's affected my performance and artistic expression, along with the exercises and ideas that have been most helpful for me that were taught by Werner himself. Many people who get into music develop a fear of it. The fear of playing, the fear of performing in front of an audience, the fear of sounding bad, the fear of being judged, playing a wrong note. Understanding this idea of fear within being a musician was the first idea that really spoke to me. I had lived with this fear throughout a majority of my childhood and early college years. I had absolutely loved every aspect of music, yet I had so much fear surrounding sharing my art and music. And for a while, I felt too embarrassed to even play for my friends and family. I was worried about either being a show-off or, on the other end of it, not being good enough. I was fearful of being vulnerable through the art of music, and it had tied me down for so long. I would even go as far to say that because of this fear, I had lost opportunities to put myself out there as a musician. This idea of effortless mastery had resonated with me so deeply. I had been a musician who had felt so passionate about the art, yet I would overthink every aspect of it. But truly, deep down to its core, what is music? It's simply frequencies through time. We are sharing our deepest emotions and expressions through the act of the tension and release of frequencies, harmonizing together to provide others with a sense of emotion, to make people feel seen, feel less alone, to give people's ears a pleasant sound to listen to. Music is just not as big of a deal as a lot of us musicians make it out to be. In some ways, honestly, I find it a little bit silly. Like, we're plucking these strings, banging on drums, like making these noises with our voice. And it's coming together in a range of rhythms, melodies, and harmonies in the effort to make people feel better, to provoke an emotion, or to help people forget about the suffering of life, or maybe even just let them know that they aren't alone in their suffering. Once we understand this, that true meaning of what music is, why we play it, what does it do for us, only then can we understand how to achieve the effortlessness that will truly convey this purpose and free our expression. If you're giving a performance and the only thing you can think about is, I hope I don't mess this up, I hope I sound good, I hope people will like this, you are not present in the expression of the music. You are in your head about your thoughts. These swirling thoughts will manifest in your music. Maybe even if you play every note right, the performance may not be perceived in the way you want it to. Now think about the best performance you've ever seen. Think of those artists who are big, that we know and love, who you deeply resonate with, who have inspired you so much that maybe even they got you to pick up an instrument or write your own songs. You will find that these artists are oftentimes not overthinking it. They are giving a performance. They are sharing their art and expression with their music without judging themselves for it. They have the confidence to get up on stage and expose the most vulnerable parts of themselves, something that most people constantly fear. As a result, they make you feel seen, feel more confident, and gain the courage to do something that is outside of your comfort zone. Werner describes this as the space where your ego isn't limiting your creativity, where you are simply just the vessel of which you perform the art. It's a place where fear isn't holding you back from your greatest expression, where, in his words, all creative possibilities of the universe are to be found. To achieve this, you must be able to detach from your ego. Well, how do you detach from your ego? The best way, I think, is through meditation. Meditation is focused on controlling your breath, taking a moment to remember that you are simply breathing. While meditating, you may come across thoughts, and that's totally okay. You don't have to judge yourself for them. You don't have to force yourself to be completely thoughtless. You just have to observe it and then return to focusing on your breath. Meditation helps you find inner peace. It teaches you how to quiet your mind, and it encourages you to look deep within yourself and gain a deeper understanding of who you are. Now, I understand Zen meditation honestly isn't for everyone. If you have anxiety or any other mental ailments, it can be difficult and debilitating to just sit still for a long period of time with your thoughts. But there are many different ways to meditate, and this is something I wish I knew when I was first getting into meditation. You don't just have to sit there and breathe for a long time. I mean, obviously you can, and there's a lot of meditations that involve that, but there's different breathing techniques, there's different movements and mindsets to get into that meditative state. I'm not an expert on meditation, so I really recommend doing your own research on which way of meditation will work for you. I'll provide some resources in the description that have been helpful for me. If you're new to this, I would just recommend trying a short guided meditation on YouTube. Kenny Werner himself actually has great guided meditations specifically catered towards musicians, which he has in his book. Meditation, I think, is the best tool to detach from your ego and achieve the space. Meditation will bring you back to the most important things that as humans do, breathe. In class, Werner would often remind us to, in our day-to-day life, just take a moment to think about your breath. Or not even think about it, just observe it. Observe how it feels, just for a few seconds, and then return to our daily activities. This is something I do now without even thinking about it. I find my mind is quieter than it's ever felt before. I've always been a chronic overthinker, and I definitely still have my moments of that, but just taking a little bit of time daily to meditate, or even just taking a few moments in my day to observe my breath, that has been immensely impactful. In fact, let's try it right now. Sit up comfortably in your chair, or maybe you're even lying down, just whatever you're doing. Just take a moment and observe your breath. Are you breathing quickly? Are you breathing deeply? Other thoughts popping into your head as you do this? Are they distracting you? If so, bring it back to your breath. Just watch it. Don't force it. See how you breathe. And just like that, even for just the short 30 seconds that we did that, it provides a little bit of mindfulness for yourself. It provides a sense of observation and a little bit of detachment from yourself. Trying not to judge yourself and just thinking, I'm breathing. And how am I breathing? And what is that doing? I think this is one of the best things that us humans can do throughout our day. So what's next? Meditation is a practice. As you meditate more and more, you'll be able to achieve this state of detachment from your inner critic and your ego. It just takes some time to build up. Especially if you're like me and constantly have that voice of the inner critic in your head, or constantly judging yourself and being hard on yourself. It takes a lot of time. In fact, this is still something I work on every day to be better at. Work to let go of all your thoughts with each breath. Let go of the need to be a great player, the need to play the right notes to sound good. Now, if you feel like you are able to get into this space, the only thing left to do is to pick up your instrument and play. I have my acoustic guitar here, and I'm going to show you some of the exercises that we would do in class to help us achieve the space while we play our music. Relax and sit up straight in a comfortable position, and simply float your hands onto the position of your instrument. Take it slow and observe this as if someone else is doing it for you. Place down one finger at a time on your string or on your piano or whatever instrument you play. You can even do this with your voice, letting out a single note with your breath as you reside in the space. Breathe with your hands as they move. Observe it as if you were viewing it through a screen, as if they weren't your own hands. Werner emphasizes this idea of moving slowly through your instrument in step 1 of his book. He urges readers to take it very, very slow. Achieving 1 or 2 fingers or notes in this space is better than losing the state and forcing more notes out of it. Pause, find the space, and do it again and again until you feel comfortable coming in and out of the space. Let me show you an example of this. So I just took 3 notes with my index, middle, and ring finger. And while attempting to really maintain the space, maintain the state of observation, just calmly playing these notes. After attempting this, eventually you'll feel comfortable just playing your instrument without thinking about it too much. How long can you stay in the space while moving about your instrument? Werner goes on in step 2 to explain how to just let your fingers fly. In this step, you will once again find that space and now move about your instrument without judgment of where your fingers go, moving about in a state of observation and listening, feeling the sense of enjoyment from every note you play. And that's super important too, to really feel free, feel that joy, feel that gratification from playing music. Try this for as long as you can remain in the space and then stop. This is the step I find myself practicing the most. It's the state in which I find myself exploring my most creative musical ideas. You may have heard this idea before. There are no wrong notes. A great viral video of bassist Victor Wooten demonstrates this perfectly.
So I'm gonna do my best to play the wrong note, but I'm gonna make it groove. I start here, so no matter what note I play, right? That's wrong, that's right. It took me one note to know where I was, but you don't care. Listen, listen, listen. Listen. These are all the notes. You tell me which one is wrong. All the notes are right.
And how does he do this? As Werner puts it, if dissonant notes are played and the player embraces them as consonant, the listener will hear them as consonant. As I mentioned before, music is a mix of tension and release. The wrong notes are the tension. If you play with the idea that no note is incorrect, if you play every note with purpose and intention, no note will sound wrong to the listener. If you think about it, non-musicians don't even know the difference between the harmonious sound of a major chord versus the dissonance of a diminished chord. They will just hear the tension and release and the emotion conveyed through the chords. With every note you play, believe that it is the note you intend to play. That this is the truth, this is the music. No note will ever be perceived as wrong. I think this is portrayed perfectly in step 2. Let me give you an example. That's just a short example of what you would do in step 2. Playing notes at a constant rate, just not thinking about where your hands are moving. Listening as if you were listening to someone else play music. Simply just observing your hands as they move across the fretboard. In class, he would take us through other examples with the similar idea of just arbitrarily playing notes while maintaining the space we tried exercises where we would play chords. So for example, just moving our hands about in different chord shapes. Or just placing our hands down on the guitar and seeing what happens. I'm not even really considering what chords I'm playing. As you can see, the chords that are coming out are likely the chords I practice the most often. Another example of something we would do in class, I'm going to grab a pick for this one, is we would just play as fast as possible, not even worrying about getting a perfect sound out of every note or having the most perfect technique, just doing this across the fretboard or doing this across the piano, just like not even really thinking about it, just finding our limits with our hand movements. It sounds something like this. It's a little bit ridiculous, but it's an idea that gets out of your head. Every note I have to play is perfect. Everything I have to do is perfect. You can just play, and if you just practice this state, then that will bring us to the final steps that Werner discusses in his book. So after doing these sorts of exercises, finally it will bring you to steps 3 and 4 in his book, which I won't be going over too extensively, but they're mostly about applying the space to improvisation and to actual songs that you may be learning. And then step 4 is using the space to achieve difficult techniques that you may not be able to execute quite yet. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I recommend checking out his YouTube channel and book to gain a deeper understanding of all of these steps. For me personally, I find step 2 to be extremely impactful for me. These simple exercises of just playing without thinking about it, while trying to be in the space, I feel like it's opened me up a lot more creatively and has gotten my hands in the habit of just playing notes, just not stopping and not hesitating about what I'm playing. It has made my performances just so much better and has made me even feel less nervous to perform because I have a lot more trust in my own guitar playing because of it and my own musical ability. It's given me a lot more confidence in my playing. So how does this tie into also practicing music theory and things like that? I've portrayed this idea in other videos of mine. I think it's still good to consciously practice your instrument, really focusing on working on techniques, working on that difficult solo. Those ideas, as you practice your scales, practice your chords, arpeggios, other things like that, you will find that when you're doing these effortless mastery exercises, those ideas are going to naturally come out because they're just going to be in your brain. You're just going to have that developed in your hands, in your muscle memory, if you're continuing to practice those things as well. So I think it's all about balance, having a balance between consciously practicing and just being in the space and just playing and just seeing what happens. To be honest, I'm still practicing these techniques and working towards being more effortless with my playing. Even if I'm not constantly practicing these steps all the time, just understanding this idea whenever I pick up my instrument or play, or even just whenever I do anything that would require this flow state, I work towards achieving the space and trying not to overthink it. So if you enjoyed this video and felt like it was helpful for you, or if you resonated with any of these ideas, please subscribe, leave a like, and comment. Let me know if these ideas resonate with you as much as it does with me, and if you've had any moments of effortless mastery that have been impactful for you. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.